The hits keep coming. Welcome to Season 3 of the Cinegration Station with your conductors Ryan, Eric, and AJ. Today, Ryan and Eric sat down with a special guest, Glenn Merlin Johnson from the Adaptive Design Group, as well as Patch McNulty from CET. They discussed lighting design and so much more. So, check your resolutions, turn up your radios, and tune in now here on the Cinegration Station.
Welcome to the Cinegration Station. This is your conductor, Ryan. We have a few other conductors here today. I'll introduce, or actually you could do it yourself.
Yeah, this is Eric with Cinegration.
And then over there.
This is Patrick with CET Associates.
And our special guest.
Glenn Merlin Johnson from Adaptive Design Group.
Thank you, Glenn Merlin Johnson, for coming on the Cinegration Station. And this is exciting. I'm really glad to have you here. We're here at the CET space, and I would like maybe if I could give you the opportunity to explain a little bit about what you do and a little bit about what Adaptive is.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ryan. Adaptive Design Group, we're an architectural lighting design and engineering firm. We do the luxury residential world and have for 38 years, and right now is the most exciting time really in my business. Because of the technology that's available and the intelligent lighting and integration systems, and it does require an entire modern team to pull together all this technology today. And specifically, and working directly with the architect and interior designer, having the integrator and the lighting designer all communicating up front, that's the only way to have success today. And CET is a wonderful partner as well. And we're here at their facility in Colorado, along with Cinegration, and excited to be here.
Yeah, we're always excited to be back at CET. It is a really cool experience space that you've got going on. Some cool Ketra lighting. We've got some really great demos with clients over the next 2 days. So it's been unique. And Glenn, if you can, maybe a little bit about your background of how you got started in the industry and, you know, where you come from.
Well, San Francisco Bay Area really was the birthplace of lighting design, architectural lighting design.
Not easy to do business there, though. There must be a lot of regulations you had to work
with. It's true, and it was the best time to work through the electrical contracting world, which was our trade background. Actually, was in electrical contracting and working in one of the most difficult towns for code compliance and things. And so my father actually started a design build firm called Artistic Lighting and Electric in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he trained up his boys, there's three of us, Dwayne, Glenn, and Eric, in his practice. And we did design and build in the luxury estates around the San Francisco Bay Area and Atherton, Los Altos, Saratoga, all of those. This was years and years ago. And so went through the whole training and apprenticeship in electrical. And then my father, there wasn't really any courses being taught on lighting design per se.
Figure it out, make it look good, make it work.
Yes, we'd put it on paper, then we'd put the bags on and install it and go, oh man, that didn't work. And so, but now, 25 years later, I wrote a book called The Art of Illumination, Residential Lighting Design, published it 25 years ago, went to McGraw-Hill and got it in 25 colleges and universities, teaching about the art of illumination, applying illumination artistically and then adding the technology. Particularly today, it's all intelligent. Everything is processor based. And so that was the background. And I moved to Los Angeles, had an office on Wilshire Boulevard, company called Lighting by Design. Also, I was still building the project, designing and building, doing a lot of homes in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, and then ultimately got completely out of the contracting side and went purely design and engineering.
Smart.
was a good move. Saved.
And I'd imagine you saw the really unique iterations of early smart homes, early automation that was probably in some way cobbled together because the brands weren't working, and you really had to make things work, had to make it beautiful. And, I think you led the way our industry has been moving as far as lighting is concerned in high-end residential projects. You probably contributed to a good bit of that.
Well, yeah, we were there at the beginning, the inception of integrated dimming control, right? With the various companies, starting with a company called Light Touch, and which actually was my introduction to Utah from California, was to go up to Light Touch for some training. And when we saw this integrated lighting control system and then ultimately a processor controlling that was a brand new tool and very, very exciting tool for us in the lighting field. Sure. And then, of course, many other products unfolded from that line. And we've been there in the beginning with all these integrated dimming control systems.
Now in Park City, where CET also has some footprint as well. And I know, we're all here together and we all kind of work together in a unique capacity because we don't compete at all, but we all support the projects in order to make them completely whole. So there's nothing, we do the installation, we do the product, you do the design, and CET is the overall resource to make all of these things happen, more or less, right, Patrick?
Yeah, we're kind of the intermediary, and I've only known Glenn for a couple of years now, but we've developed a great relationship, and Adaptive shares a space with us actually in Park City, so we're in the same office out there. And I can tell you, just my introduction to Glenn and kind of talking to him over the years now, I'm much more susceptible to bad lighting. In restaurants, everywhere I go, I always used to look at the speakers and all those things just being in the AV industry. But now the lighting is so much more important to me. And I tell my wife, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. It's the glare, it's Glenn's whole thing about it's the light that glows, the glare and all that. And, even the time we've been here at our space, him and, Chris, who works for him, did some adjustment to our catcher lights here. And I mean, it's night and day difference how good it looks in here now.
Yeah, you thought I would have thought it looked amazing in here. And then you guys did the aim and tuning session, and we had a full table that's, 12 feet long, fully illuminated, with just 2 wash lights. And it's like pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make a point.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty rare, it seems like, in the design world that you have actual hands-on experience from contracting and then merging into the design world. It just seems like maybe a lot of designers don't actually have the hands-on experience or contracting experience prior. So like knowing exactly what the issues can be in the field and just, I think that's a pretty good background.
I've always loved going into meetings when people don't know us, and whether it's New York or Connecticut or Florida, and most people have their arms folded, and oh no, here comes another lighting designer, guy wearing loafers from out of town. What is this all about? And then in 30 minutes, everybody's completely diffused because, it is a team. It is an entire process, and it is complex. Doing what we do today is complex. And so we have to sort everything out, work with the architects, the interior designers to meet the owner's needs ultimately, and then have that ability to speak to the electrical contractors when they say, you can't do that. And we say, oh, really?
Yeah, you got to push the boundary.
Yeah, it's been a refreshing process for me to see, and, just how it's made it easier to like be able to figure this stuff out up front. And, just the process seems to go seamless, and I'm enjoying to see the process and how all this is going to come together. It just makes complete sense. So I appreciate,
as far as the adaptive,
what everybody's doing, the adaptive method, us as the modern design group.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so great and refreshing to see it finally, coming together on these projects.
Anecdotally, because we all met yesterday, there was a unique experience where we had to tell a client that a light bulb may or may not cost $1,000 or more. But and that might seem obscure to say how much a light bulb is, but it's because of the system that it's involved in, and it made a lot more sense to the client once we explained and communicating the light bulb has a lot more than just smartness to it. You actually omit a lot on the labor, on the material, and the system actually starts to become more cost effective, even though it's such an expensive, widget in the ceiling. So anecdotally, that was just a really unique thing to kind of get across, engage the client with, and then have them be receptive to say, hey, that's actually not so bad. So that was really unique.
Well, the reality as well is that lighting is all about art. It's all about an experience that we're creating for the clients. And our job is to show them what tools are available today. And there are so many new tools, and Ketra being one, which is just extraordinary what you can do with it. And if people are just looking at line items on a piece of paper of a bill of materials, the red pen's going to come out and they're going to, what do you mean $1,100? They're going to just scratch it out. Well, particularly if the builder is in charge, those are going to go out.
Yeah, and I think it does take the modern design team to thoroughly explain the real value proposition of that technology. No one could just say, I'll just buy it from a line item on a sheet. It deserves the conversation and the attention that we give it.
Yeah, I'm curious of, the cost comparison of doing a panelized lighting versus doing, daisy chain 20 amp circuit, Ketra lights, and where's that, cost value come in, and, the labor on the front end versus the labor on the back end, how much labor's saved with, little programming time because Lutron has it already built in. So I think it would be a nice, good, cost analysis to bring to the table. And it sounds like you guys have that put together, but I'm really interested in hearing more about, how we can show that. And, cause that's the first thing with customers, it's budget. It's like,
what's the number?
$1,100.
Yeah.
Well, but look at everything and where the money's allocated, then it makes sense. So.
Yeah, and I think, so Lutron has a Ketra cost estimator tool that essentially kind of can take those factors of the labor costs and all of the wiring costs and input that information and then spit out, hey, this is what it would cost with a Ketra system, because you're not running switch legs. It is just a daisy chain. 100 fixtures on a 20 amp circuit is quite a lot of fixtures. And as we talked about yesterday, it's really tailoring to that experience and explaining the experience behind it, because you're living with this every single day. You have the TVs, you have the speakers, but maybe you don't turn them on every single day. You turn your lights on every single day.
Yep.
And lighting can truly change your mood. It can change how you feel. Good lighting can make you feel good and feel good about your space. And as Glenn talks about his method with the adaptive method and highlighting architecture elements and all these things that were purposely built by these architects, and they're so proud of this artistic representation of what they do, but then the lighting's horrible. It doesn't really give it a good fair shake.
Patrick, a key point besides the cost analysis and things really is the architect. Because if we're all working together up front with the architect in exposing these types of products to the clients, the clients all want what we have to offer, but nobody is really, outside of the modern design team, articulating what's available, what's the latest and greatest. And so when we come in on board with this modern team, with the architect, the interior designer to meet the owner's needs, and with Ketra, it requires us designing and engineering early up front because of the 20 amp circuit and 125 lights looped together on the recessed products. You can't do that after the fact. You have to design it in now.
Yeah, otherwise you blow the electrician's mind when you show up to the job and say, hey, wire it this way, and don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
And having that at the architect's level where the plans say what they're doing is a lot better than red lines, trying to do such a high-end, really robust lighting system off of quick changes in the field is really a poor way of doing it. So meeting with the architect is key. I agree.
And what I always say too is, budget. Everybody, all the years I've been working with significant homes, everybody has a budget and they want to talk numbers. Well, we're the ones to talk the numbers, right? This modern team, Cinegration, CET, Adaptive, we can put those budget numbers together to assist the builder to fold that into the plans instead of in the planning process, instead of after the fact. There's nothing more painful for a client to say, gee, I'd like to do this, but we've already wired the house, windows are going in, and why didn't anybody tell us that this was available?
The other point I was learning, as I'm finishing my basement right now, is how much framing that you have to think about when you're doing a lot of the indirect light and lighting, design. There's so much involved up on the early design with an architect, or, this, like in a room, how you can build the cloud ceiling or pockets, for the indirect lighting. And, all that needs to be thought up, in the early design phase. So it's just interesting, like, we need to be involved how early, in the process, where we're so used to just coming in during electrical, and it's like, hey, where are we going to place the light fixtures? And it's like, well, wait a minute, we need to stop and think. And so I'm learning a lot in this process for sure.
Well, and I think the ability to, kind of get back to Ketra, it's the process and the design and all that aspect in the beginning, but the ability to tell a client, hey, in a couple of years, if you decide that you don't like these lights grouped into this area, we can regroup them and readdress them because these are an intelligent lighting system. That's powerful. I mean, you're not doing that with a traditional lighting system. You're stuck with what you got, So if the design phase and the planning isn't good, not only you're not going to be happy initially, over time, what are you going to do? You're going to cut ceilings up and re-one wire? It's not a thing, So you're kind of stuck with that. So the ability to change those things and kind of adjust those things over the course of the home as your life changes and maybe your activities change or how you interact with your home changes, I think is extremely powerful as well.
Well said.
Well said.
Well, that being said, I want to actually throw a curveball to Glenn here. So Glenn, not everybody that listens to our podcast is buying a super high-end home. And I want to ask you, what is something that, the normal home buyer can do to beautify their space when it comes to lighting, in your opinion, that people maybe don't think that they could do so easily? I know that's off topic, but I just want to see what you might say about what the average Joe can do to have better illumination.
Great question, Ryan, and I've got a great answer for it. And we've alluded to it a couple times in this session about the adaptive method. And what I wrote about in the book 25 years ago, highlighted into the book called The Art of Illumination, Residential Lighting Design, was the outline of the word adaptive as an acronym for 8 layers of light. So you can go home tonight and go into your home and see how many layers of light you have in the space. So architecture, first thing we want to look at, how are we going to beautify the home by illuminating the architecture? So you can bring in some torchère lamps or something if you have an existing space to uplight into the ceiling. Then the decorative lighting, how many jewels do you have in the space for wall sconces, sofa table lamps, all of that. That's the jewelry piece, or D of adaptive. The next A is the art. Is your artwork well illuminated and appropriately? ADAP, path lighting is P of adaptive. The general lighting, T is task lighting. All the work surfaces, are your work surfaces illuminated? Your bathroom vanities, your kitchen prep areas.
I could give you that.
Okay, I is
the interiors.
right.
The interiors.
Illuminating the interior design, coffee tables, hutches, armoires, accenting the interior design.
And we've V. V is the
view layer to draw your eye through the windows at night.
I like that one. Not that I like it the most, but I like it a lot because I have the mirror effect in my house, and I know it's to view through exterior window, allowing an easier way to see the yard or to see the courtyard without staring at your reflection and being like, who's back there? Who's in my yard? It's I really like the highlighting that particular one.
It's very important. And then E ultimately is the exterior, or the landscaping. Once your eye goes through the window, your eye really wants to continue on to maximize that view. So that's the logic the trademarked process of ours, actually. But that's the logic to help you think through lighting in an existing home or new project coming up. The architects love this, and then we incorporate all that into our drawings and docs and work with the Cinegration team and integrators and CET and put all the parts and pieces together.
That was like the perfect answer. Basically, take an analysis of your home. Are you hitting all the right pieces? It's not saying, do you have the most expensive lights to do all the crazy things? But are you just being conscious of what's being illuminated in your home?
Yeah. Who would have thought there was 8 layers of light?
I know.
And Ryan's the best student at Cinegration.
That's because I have his book. I got Glenn's book in my office.
See, I got you that book,
yeah. Thumb through it.
Did you read it?
I
have it, but I
started
haven't.
it.
I just got it, so I'm going to get through it.
I'm on the audio book. But it's really interesting because I'm going through all the, the certain Lutron dimmers that they had, but I almost just feel like they've just changed it to look more elegant. But the back end part of it is like kind of the same theory, maybe just new RF communication as opposed to wired communication. But it's I like going through it, so it's quite cool.
Should we demo some of the?
I was going to say that earlier. Actually,
okay.
I'm gonna talk to our wrangler over there, Shelby. And Shelby, if you could just press the, I believe it's the mood button.
What are you trying to do?
Make the lights cool.
Oh, like all of them? If
you
just hold the entertain button.
So we're gonna do a quick infield demo. There we go. The entertain button on the Elise Lutron keypad over there. Just set all the catcher lights to a really unique aqua color in the space.
Yeah, Smurfs entertaining at CET.
Yeah.
As Glenn would say, the circus. We got the circus lights going.
Yeah.
And if you hold the natural button at the top there, Shelby, just hold it. It should change the whole space back.
It's completely different. It's almost like my eyes don't even know how to adjust to that like perfectly seen. It wasn't like it just turned to natural daylight. It was like a full blend from blue to 4,000K or whatever we have in here.
Yeah, and it's natural show right now. So as we've discussed, I mean, natural show, circadian rhythm, and in layman's terms, basically it follows the time of day. So depending on the time of day, the light's going to adjust to give you the perfect level of light, so that you're waking up in the morning, you push the natural button, it's going to be a lower candlelight style, maybe 2,000 Kelvin, 1,800 Kelvin, and as you progress through the day, it's going to get brighter. As you get to the middle of the day, it's going to be at its brightest point, and as you get towards the night, it's going to kind of go back to candlelight. So that way, if you wake up in the middle of the night and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you push your natural button, it's not going to a 6,000 Kelvin 100%. It's adjusting based off the time of day, and you're still happy and not blinding yourself. I
think that's something people often overlook is the automated nature of lighting and time of day when you press the light. Because nobody really, if you're not in the industry, you don't really think about like, wait, what do you mean it's different at 2 a.m. when I have to go to the restroom because, I got blinded and everybody just deals and they just do that. But it's one thing to just have it naturally occurring where you just feel comfortable every button you press.
Think about that ability to wake up in your master bedroom or your bedroom, kids' rooms, to the sun rising rather than an alarm clock blaring at, and also you can in turn do that with the sun setting with hidden light sources. And I mean, that's what I love about the Ketra product, is to be able to do that, to wake up to the sun and go to sleep with the sun going down.
Yeah, much more refreshing. You don't feel as fatigued, as I mentioned, and you add the other elements in, like the shading solutions, right? And with the shading solutions combined with the Ketra solutions, now you're combining that with the sunlight, the natural daylight, which is the best light source, and those shades are going up in the morning slowly, and your light's matching kind of outside. So it really just brings the exterior to the interior and just makes you feel, I mean, it really changes your mood. I mean, it honestly does. I'm not big on bright lights. It's not how I operate. I think I've said it before in a previous podcast. Every client when I worked at Cinegration was like, do you want to turn a light on? I'm like, nah, I'm good. I like the dark, and now it's like, yeah, I like lower light and stuff. So again, it's tailored to the experience of what that person wants to experience in their home, and the ability to change these things on the fly and have what you want and not be tied into, I press this button and this light's going to go to the same thing every single time is extremely powerful.
What type of lighting are you doing in your basement, Eric?
Well, I've framed for some cove lighting, so indirect lighting up in the ceiling for like the media bar kind of entertaining space. And then in a bedroom, I framed a soffit out, so there was a little, I guess, ledge or indirect spot for lighting in the bedroom. So that way, you know, you don't have that, you know, stark recessed can light just shining down on you all the time.
Kind of like a pocket, like a slot in the ceiling.
Right,
So then
exactly.
It's,
so it's like a little shelf above. I had built a soffit above the bed, but I was able to build that little shelf above it, so that way you could, you know, install some linear light, and then like in the rec game room area, another shelf kind of for some of that indirect, you know, linear lighting, so you don't see the light source, but you know, you can get that nice glow in the back there. So I still have to figure out the recessed lighting, the more task oriented, I guess, and pathway type stuff. So I'm only like 1 or 2 layers in right now, but yeah, it's a lot. So I'm
But it
trying
got
to
you
soak
thinking.
up this.
It got you thinking, right? The
Oh.
layers have got you
We're
thinking.
taking care of
Yeah, I
everybody
can't sleep
else's
at
layers.
night,
We don't
so.
have time for our own layers. And,
Lots of
uh,
layers.
Yeah.
So it's fun though. It's fun.
It's like
So,
an onion, right?
Yeah.
Lots of layers. I
Exactly.
think that's a Shrek quote.
exactly.
And then in the middle of the onions, a nice palladium keypad to control the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
The term I like to use, and clients really understand this, particularly when we show it on the television or big screen. But there's only 2 kinds of light. There's the glow that illuminates and the glare that obscures. So when you're thinking about recessed lighting and the layers of light, keep the recessed lighting to a minimum if you can. You'll be invited back by the architects too if you do that, because nobody wants ceilings just littered with recessed lights. So because that does introduce glare into the space. So you want to glow the interiors, the architecture, the colors, the finishes, never distract from. So that's the logic for you in your basement.
So one of the things I've been battling is all the different products available, and like, okay, do I do DMF? Do I do American Lighting? Do I do Lutron? You know, and it's like, how can I make all those play together? And then I just keep coming back to Lutron, and it's like, hey, this is just going to make it so much easier in the end to program it for it all to match, and the color and the light levels to, you know, to match essentially. If you're doing tunable white, or, you know, it's not the color stuff, that's the fun stuff, and, you know, but like having a blue sky, that's kind of cool, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But a pink ceiling, you know, it's fun for the kids, but, you know, I think it goes beyond that, and like, hey, it's a basement, so I want it to feel more light, you know, because you don't get much light down there. I only have 2 windows, so I was, you know, you can change that color temperature to make it feel more bright in daylight and, you know, during the time of day. So there's a battle between some of those products of like, what do I do where? So that's where I'm struggling a bit.
We've got some resources for you.
I know you have the whole toolkit.
A whole toolkit. The modern design team, as Glenn has coined.
The modern design team does have the whole, you know, toolkit available, and I think that's probably one of the great things is somebody asks a question and everyone's like, I know the answer. I know it'll work. And it's great that we always have that in our head, because most people don't have any, you know, hardware tech options. They just Google, Amazon. What do I see online? So I feel like when people come and meet us, they get a whole lot of knowledge that can help them be more prepared to make decisions as they build their house or remodel their home, and makes me feel, you know, warm and fuzzy. So
I just appreciate, working with you guys, and it's been shed some light for me. So
Nice.
it's always
That
a
was
pleasure
good.
to, you know, work with you, Glenn, have you on the Cinegration Station. I'm sure between us as a group, CET, Cinegration, and Adaptive, we'll have more unique stories of projects that we'll work on together. Thank you again for coming on the Cinegration Station. This is Ryan Williams, one of your conductors.
Eric Fisher with Cinegration.
Patrick McNulty with CET Associates.
Glenn Merlin Johnson, Adaptive Design Group.
Thank you, and we will see you on episode 3. Thanks.
We are out of time. Thank you, Glenn, for coming in and sharing your expert knowledge on lighting design. Anyone that's interested in learning more about the Adaptive Design Group, go to adaptivedg.com. Anyone that's interested in learning more about smart homes, go to cinegration.com. You have been listening to the Cinegration Station. You can find it on every major platform: Anchor, Google, Amazon, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You also can find it on YouTube. Please like and follow and share with a friend. Until next time, stay smart.